This is Career Composer. I'm Erin, and I'm helping you, professionals under 30, navigate your careers with a music-themed twist. I'm giving you the job search and career advice you need to get that job, but we'll also talk about music, how to balance our personal and professional lives, and figure out what we're meant to do. Ready? Let's go. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another Career Composer episode all about interviewing. My name is Erin. I'm a full-time career coach in Washington, D.C., and today we are talking about how to answer the easiest question you will ever answer in an interview, which is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? I'm going to break it down real simple for you. But first, this is a music and career advice podcast, so if you want more from Career Composer, make sure you go listen to The Prelude. The Prelude is where we talk about music, random updates I have for you, and it's also where I introduce the main episode and connect our career advice to something music related. So every other Monday, you'll have an episode like this one where we talk about a career topic, but before that episode, you'll also see a shorter 5 to 10 minute episode called The Prelude, which is what I just mentioned. And without further ado, let's get into it. What are your strengths and weaknesses is the easiest answer to give in an interview because there is a very simple formula that ensures you do it right. And you can practically memorize your answer before you get to the interview, which I personally love. So let's talk about what are your strengths first. What strengths should you list? When you're answering the question, what are your strengths in an interview? It doesn't really matter what strengths you give, but know that this is one area where you could be adaptable and provide a strength that you haven't talked about yet in your interview. This will make you appear more well-rounded and show a side of you that you haven't had a chance to show off yet. I would have 2 to 3 strengths ready to go, ready to talk about, and then pick 1 to 2 that feel the most impactful to share in the moment. Once you choose a strength, the rest is so easy. First, list and describe the strength. And second, give an example of how you have used that strength in the past. Better yet, talk about how you would use that strength in this new role at their company. This allows the employer to visualize you in this role and imagine how you would apply this strength to this role. Now, it's super easy to just list one strength and move on. Make sure that you listen to the interviewer to know whether you need to list one strength or list more than one. If they ask, Erin, what are your strengths? You better believe I'm listing 2, at least 2, because it's also a test to see if you're listening to the question. And at least half of the mock interviews that I've done for students at the university that I work for, they only list one strength when I ask, what are your strengths? Which is plural. So breathe, take a second, and notice whether they've asked for one strength or more than one. And if you forget and just start rattling off the first strength because you're nervous, you can always ask, could you please remind me, would you like me to list just one strength or more than one? Nothing wrong with asking that question. Now let me give you a couple examples. Okay, here are a couple examples of how you could answer what are your strengths in an interview. This answer is from someone who is a senior tax associate at PwC. One of my greatest strengths is time management under pressure. During my second busy season at PwC, 2 team members unexpectedly went on leave just as we were finalizing a tax provision for a major tech client. We were suddenly short-staffed, but the deadline couldn't move. I took initiative to restructure our workflow, dividing responsibilities among the remaining team and personally taking on several additional prep tasks, like reconciliations and provision footnotes. I also created a simple tracker to keep everything organized and ensure no details slipped through the cracks. As a result, we submitted the provision a full day early with 0 review comments from our manager. It taught me how to stay calm under pressure and proactively support a team, even when things don't go as planned. I would bring the same determination and ability to stay calm under pressure to your company. Okay, so that's strength number 1. And you'll notice that person listed, one of my greatest strengths is time management under pressure. You state the strength. That's what I meant by describe the strength first. And then she went on to list an example of when she utilized that strength. And again, said, I would bring the same determination and ability to stay calm under pressure to your company, reminding the interviewer that this strength would be applied to her new role for the company she's applying to work for. The second answer is for a senior model analyst at Moody's. One of my biggest strengths is my ability to take complex technical data, especially in catastrophe modeling, and translate it into clear, actionable insights for people who aren't in the weeds of data science. In my current role at Moody's, I work on flood and hurricane risk models that help insurance companies estimate potential losses from future natural disasters.
These models are incredibly technical. We're incorporating climate data, elevation maps, historical storm paths, and damage functions to simulate how a flood or a hurricane would impact a region down to the zip code level. But the people using the model, insurance underwriters, risk managers, even regulators, aren't necessarily modelers. They need to understand what the outputs mean for their portfolios and policy decisions. For example, when we rolled out a major flood model update, I was responsible for presenting the changes to clients. I built a visual presentation that showed not just the technical updates, but the implications, like which regions saw increased modeled risk and how that could affect underwriting strategy or capital reserves. I also walked through how new assumptions had been validated, using plain language to explain why the model was more accurate. That presentation helped ease client concerns, provided clarity in renewal conversations, and ultimately helped our team maintain a 95% client retention rate during the rollout. It reinforced how critical it is in my field, and not just to understand the data, but to communicate it clearly so clients can act with confidence. And that's why one of my greatest strengths is my ability to take complex technical data and translate it into clear, actionable insights. So that answer was a little bit longer. It was much more detailed. And providing more detail is never a bad thing unless you're talking for like 5 minutes. But it can be especially helpful if you're early on in the interview and want to give the interviewer a more clear picture of what you do in your current role. It's also helpful if you're making an industry shift and people in this new industry may need more clarification around what you currently do and how the skills you bring align with what they're looking for. All right, let's talk about weaknesses. Oh my gosh, people are so afraid to answer this question. You do not need to be scared at all. You're going to do just fine. So in the Prelude today, I gave you all an intro to our topic, and I really emphasized that everyone has weaknesses. That's why interviewers ask, what are your weaknesses? Everyone should have an answer. Just like with strengths, it doesn't matter what weaknesses you give. The most important thing to talk about is how you are working to improve them. You are demonstrating to the interviewer that you are, 1, aware of your weaknesses, because again, everyone has them, and 2, that you are intentional about taking steps to improve yourself, because that is one of the most important skills that you can have in any role, is taking steps to take your work to the next level and improve yourself. That's it. Maybe don't say, I'm lazy or I don't show up to work on time. Maybe don't say that. But other than that, you should be fine. Like with strengths, you'll want to list and describe the weakness. But with your weakness, you don't really want to harp on the weakness. So you're just listing it and moving on, not going into too much depth about the weakness itself. Again, the focus is not really on the weakness. It's what you're doing to improve it. So let's go through some examples. This example is for an early career professional in marketing. I've always been confident in one-on-one conversations and small team brainstorms, but earlier in my career, I hesitated to speak up in larger cross-functional meetings, especially when senior stakeholders were in the room. It wasn't a lack of strategy or creative ideas. I'm super creative, but more a confidence issue around how I communicated my ideas. As someone in marketing where influence and clear messaging are really important, I knew this was something I needed to work on. So I joined Toastmasters last year to strengthen my public speaking skills in a consistent, low-pressure environment. I also started prepping 1 or 2 key points to contribute in advance of meetings and practice being more concise and assertive in how I presented them. Since then, I've had opportunities to present campaign results and creative briefs to leadership with more confidence, and I've received feedback from colleagues that my presence in meetings has noticeably changed and improved. It's still something I'm actively working on, but I'm proud of the progress I've made and the steps that I've taken to improve my confidence. I've really learned that preparation and practice make a huge difference. Okay, here's another example for the same early career professional. Something else I've been working on is learning when to say no, or at least when to pause, especially in fast-paced marketing environments. I absolutely love jumping into new ideas and helping my team, so I used to take on a lot, thinking I could just power through. But I've realized that saying yes to everything can actually water down the impact of our work and stretch the team too thin. Lately, I've been more intentional about asking, does this align with our goals? Is this the right time? And what are we deprioritizing if we take this on? I've also started using tools like rice scoring to help make those calls more objective and transparent, and I use Asana's timeline features to visualize our team's current capacity. I still love being flexible and enthusiastic, but I've learned that focus is just as important in marketing as creativity, and that sometimes the best contribution is really helping the team stay clear on what matters most. I really admire Vista's reputation for focus and productivity, and I'm excited to bring what I've learned about prioritization to your team. So at the end of that one, you'll notice this person mentioned the company name, Vista, in their answer. And this person also mentioned a strength as they were giving a weakness, the strength being creativity, and talked about how both are important. Okay, everyone, I hope that was helpful. Again, I promise once you get into the groove of answering what are your strengths and weaknesses, you'll feel like it is the easiest question in the entire interview. And I don't mean to say that interviewing is easy. I know it's stressful. It's certainly not easy, but this question, again, once you get the hang of it, you'll be just fine. As always, send me your questions, share this episode with someone else who you think it could be helpful to, and good luck in your upcoming interview.
I hope you found today's episode helpful. Career Composer will be back with a new episode every other Monday. And if today's topic really resonated with you, I hope you'll consider leaving a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Reviews will really help this podcast grow so I can keep bringing you the career content that you want. You can also email me at careercomposerpodcast@gmail.com with feedback or questions because I want to give you the career advice that you actually want to hear. That's all for now. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time and have a great day.